Today we're going to talk about donor retention, or as I like to think of it, loving the one that you're with. Now, if you have attended or watched the recording of the webinar about prospecting, you know that it's my belief that prospecting isn't nearly as important as keeping the donors we have in the first place. These are the folks who have already showed us that they'll give to us. These are the folks who care about our mission, the folks who care about our kids. So what we need to do is figure out how to hold on to them. I think we need to think about which is more important, retaining the donors we have or recruiting new donors. And this cartoon, I think, sums it up perfectly. Keeping our old customers, pretty easy. Finding new customers, kind of convoluted. And yet we spend tons of time at board meetings, talking with colleagues, talking with other clubs about where do we find new donors. There's an article in the handout section of your dashboard there that is called Stop Prospecting. And it talks about why the most important donors are the ones who are already in your database. What we're going to talk about today is what the importance of retention is in terms of raising more money, how to calculate your retention rate, and how to retain the donors that you've got. According to the 2015 Fundraising Effectiveness Survey, nonprofits are losing donors at an alarming pace. In fact, nonprofit donor retention is about 43%. That means that out of every 10 donors that we get in a given year, we're losing 5 or 6 of them. It's an absolute epidemic, and it's been this way for years. So you can see it took a bit of a dip during and right after the Great Recession, but it has never been above 45, 46% in the last decade. We need to do something to get our retention a lot higher because this is just not a sustainable way to raise money. Worst of all, we're not retaining first-time donors. So if we're losing donors and we're trying to think about how to get new donors to supplant those donors that we're losing, the fact remains that we're not keeping those donors anyway. So after someone makes a first gift to you, the chances that they'll make a second gift are pretty slim. Think of it this way. With retention rates like these, in 5 years, you would only have 3% of the donors that you recruit this year. That's not going to work. If you live in a small town, you might eventually run out of people. As Roger Craver, who is an absolute guru on this subject and who wrote a great book called Retention Fundraising, as Roger Craver says, what if there were no new donors? And it's entirely possible that that could happen. You just run out of people to reach out to. And if we aren't retaining donors, there may be some reasons that we're able to control. So we know it's an epidemic. We know it's important. Let's look at why donors leave. This is according to the Rockefeller Foundation and Bloomerang. Some of these numbers will add up to more than 100 because donors surveyed were able to give more than one answer. What's interesting, though, as you look at the reasons why donors leave, is how many of these are preventable. So 5% said they thought the charity didn't need them. Certainly that's something that we can prevent by showing our donors how important their gifts are and the impact that they make. 8% said they had no information on how the gift was used. And I think as clubs, we're really good about thanking donors in most cases. We don't always show the impact of gifts. And so we don't just want people to know their gift is appreciated, but we want them to know what happened because of their gift, what was accomplished because they made that gift. And that tells the donor how their gift was used. 9% have no memory of supporting. And this, we've got a lot of consumer confusion out there. I'm sure all of you have been told that you're doing a great job at the Girl Scouts or how much someone loves the YMCA or Big Brothers Big Sisters because they can't remember who is who. That's kind of what this refers to, and obviously it happens to other nonprofits besides just the Boys and Girls Clubs. No memory of supporting you, didn't realize I sent in a check. We can control that because if we're stewarding our gift, if we're getting our donors involved, if we're sending them newsletters, if we're calling, getting them to volunteer, they're going to remember who we are, and they won't forget that they supported us. 13% never got thanked for donating. I don't think I need to say anything more than that's not okay. 16% death. Okay, on this list, that's the one reason donors can leave you that is okay. Now, of course, you should be getting a planned gift at that point, but death, fine, we can't prevent that. Everything else, I think we can. Poor service or communication, we can absolutely address that. Other nonprofits are more deserving. I don't think that's really a function of the mission of other nonprofits. No one has a more compelling mission than we do. No one is doing better work than we are. And no one more deserves the investment of caring philanthropists than kids. So they believe that other people are more deserving when other nonprofits do a better job of articulating their need. Again, something we can control. And finally, some donors say they could no longer afford to make a gift. Now, we can control for this by staying in touch with our donors when they have financial situations such as weddings or kids in college or a sick parent that might decrease their giving. We keep in touch with them. We show them that they're worth more to us than just a check. And we can ask for less money, smaller gifts when our donors have less money. So none of these reasons except death are an acceptable reason to lose a donor. So we aren't going to do it anymore. I think that a bit of homework from this webinar would be to talk with your board about why have your donors left, to take a few minutes to think as a group about your club's retention. Ask each board member to generate 3 reasons they believe our donors might be leaving. And then as a group to determine the most likely causes for your attrition. Maybe it's that you're not able to communicate with them as much as you'd like to. Maybe you're not doing a good job getting thank you notes out on time. Whatever the reason is. And then once you've picked the most likely causes, to, as a group, brainstorm strategies to address those causes. This is a great way to get that board involved, have some ownership over retention, and to get some help at trying to retain your donors. I think we really think about how to get new donors, but we don't spend a lot of time on how to keep the ones we have. So do you know your retention rate? In a recent survey by Bloomerang, less than 45% of fundraisers knew their current retention rates. So do you know your retention rate? If not, there are 2 different ways you can calculate it. Now, the easiest way is your database or your CRM can probably calculate it for you. If not, however, or if you're not working with the database, this is how you calculate retention. The important thing is that you're using the same group of donors so that you're not calculating do we have more or fewer donors than we did last year, but how many of the same donors came back. So you look at the number of donors who gave to you in one 12-month time span, 2015, and then of that same group, how many have given to you this year? You then divide year 2 by year 1, and you get your retention rate. And you can calculate retention in a segmented fashion. For example, how many people are coming back to our steak and burger year after year? How many of our annual campaign donors are we retaining? How many of our major gift donors are we retaining? And that may be where you can see where are the leaks in your bucket, and you can start to try to plug them up. You might want to do this for more than just last year or two so you can get a better feel for your trend. But this is some really important data, and you can see if you're at or above industry average. So what does a 10% increase in donor retention mean in terms of lifetime dollars raised? According to Adrian Sargent, Bloomerang's chief scientist, improving donor retention rates by just a small amount can increase the lifetime value of your database by 150 to 200%. The lifetime value is how many donations you get from a donor over their lifetime or over the lifetime of their relationship with you. And of course, if you're losing half of your donors every single year, your lifetime value is going to be really low. The other problem with losing all those donors is that you don't have the way to start moving them up the giving pyramid from an introductory annual campaign or special event gift to an annual gift to a larger gift to a monthly pledge to a lifetime gift. You can't start increasing the amounts of their gifts. And so you aren't able to spend time on major gifts fundraising because it's always subsistence. You're trying to just find new donors to supplant the ones you've lost. So improving donor retention is going to mean more money. So how do we keep our donors? 3 pretty easy strategies that you can put in place. Number 1, a good thank you letter. So what do I mean by a good thank you letter? First, it's sent promptly. Second, it's personalized for the donor. It's personalized for the time of year that it's sent. It doesn't feel like it came from a robot. So you may have 2 separate letters, a thank you letter which provides the IRS language and receipt of gift, and then an actual letter which thanks the donor for their investment. Donors can tell when you haven't put much thought into your thank you letter. Some clubs will have board members write a personal handwritten thank you letter, or the CEO or development person will write a personal handwritten thank you letter and also send out a tax letter. But this is step one. If we're not doing that, we're never going to retain our donors. Second is welcoming your first-time donors. And there's a handout that you can download over there in your dashboard after the webinar that's called the First-Time Donor Checklist, a great tool to give you some ideas for what you can do with that first-time donor. So you want your donor to feel good about their gift, to know it matters, to remember that they gave to you, to know that there was impact. If you're getting your first-time donor involved by sending them e-newsletters, by calling them to tell them thank you or having a kid call them, by inviting them to volunteer, by getting them involved with the organization, all of those things are going to be taken care of, and they'll become second and third and fourth time donors as well. Finally, a phone call. A quick phone call is a fantastic way to help your donor know how much their gift matters. So you can call, your board members can call, a club kid can call, anybody can do a thank you call, and nobody's uncomfortable saying thank you. So this is a good place to get involved, those people who are hesitant to be part of resource development. You can also do a phone call to qualify that donor. So this is where you call them and you try to have a little conversation. How did they learn about you? Why are they giving to you? Are they interested in being involved as a volunteer? And by that conversation, you can tell whether this is a donor who was going to make just a small annual gift or might be someone you might want to cultivate in the future. So not only would it help you to retain that donor, it also will help you to decide if that's a donor that you want to pursue further. So reflecting on this Quickenar, what I would challenge all of you to do, calculate your retention rate, and then consider two questions. What 3 strategies will you put into place to increase retention this year? What can you do to stop losing so many donors? And secondly, what's your goal retention rate for 2016? We know that just a 5% increase can make a tremendous difference. Do you want to try for 5%, 10%, more? Is your board behind you? Hopefully you've brought this to them, you've shared your retention rate, and as a group you've brainstormed some strategies to help address this problem. Retention is the easiest way to success. I absolutely guarantee that if you can retain more donors, you'll raise more money. And it's so much easier to keep the donors you have than it is to find a new donor. The donors that you have, most importantly, have already told you that they'll give to you. They've already said they care about your mission. They already know the work that you do. So it's just up to you to show that you're the right place and they made the right decision. So retention absolutely equals success, and I challenge you all to raise your retention rates this year. Got some resources for you to download. They're in the dashboard of your screen over there under handouts. There's a PDF of these PowerPoint slides. There's the Stop Prospecting article I referenced that really explains why you don't need to find new donors, just keep the ones you have. There's kind of a fun infographic about retention, might be something good that you could give to your board. There's a first-time donor checklist, a tool to help you retain more donors. And there's the Calculating Retention worksheet. It gives you a couple of practice scenarios if you or your board would like to work through those, and just reminds you of what the formula is. So with that, I'm going to stop the webinar, but stay on the line so that if anyone has questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I hope that you retain all your donors this year and raise lots and lots of money. Thank you.